There is no price for a life. It's important. Our responsibility, though, is to make sure that those lives are able to work in a beneficial way on the job site and carry on and pass that on as well to family members for an opportunity that this country affords basically like unlike any other country in the world. I'd like that chart that was displayed earlier put up on the board, just for context again. At the very least, we can agree. That's the direction we want to go. That's the direction we want to go. Reducing silicosis. Now, there might be variables in the numbers there, a little bit up, a little bit down. But that's the direction we want to go, and with the present standard, even with weaknesses in the actual enforcement of that standard, that's where we're at. Through all of the hearings that we've had, and it's correct, we've had multiple hearings on this silicosis rule, trying to press upon OSHA, Department of Labor, that this is a serious consideration and it impacts all of us in the room and all outside of this room, on industry continuing to provide the products, the services that are necessary in this great country. It's been stated by a colleague of mine on the other side of the aisle that China's not doing these things. Well, we don't want to go backwards to what China's doing. We don't want to give our products away to China either, or any other country. We want to continue to compete. This isn't only the construction industry. This crosses the board. As we've heard about multiple industries that have impact of silica. There have been thousands, literally thousands of comments submitted to OSHA in the rulemaking process. Sadly, it's clear that some of those comments were rejected, not simply rejected because they didn't make sense, but just out of hand, apparently for philosophical differences. That doesn't bode well for a standard that works. My father worked at U.S. Steel. Now, I don't know whether he eventually got lung cancer as a result of that job, but he did. Ultimately, thankfully, due to experimental therapy, he not only lived, but he went on to work till he was 73 years of age as a machinist, tool and die maker, because he loved it, and he would work longer, didn't wear out. I worked at that same plant, U.S. Steel South Works, south side of Chicago, out of high school. My second job after being a laborer there at the plant was as a furnace and ladle repairman's helper. It was an interesting job. I mixed a lot of mortar. I cut a lot of tile bricks for those ladles that took the molten steel from the furnace, as well as got inside those furnaces when they were shut down to help repair those as well. Now, I don't know, well, I guess I could say, I'm sure that the policies that are in place right now probably weren't in place back in 1969, at least fully. I'm still breathing okay, and I hope that continues. I don't know about the ladle repairman, whether he is or not. But we want to see things work well. That same plant, those same set of furnaces, 10 minutes after I left work one night, left the locker room heading back to my car, half-mile from number 2 electric furnace where I work, exploded. The entire locker room was gone. Everything around it was gone because a burn through from the heat went down into the sewer and blew up. I agree with you, Ms. Hershkowitz. We don't want to mess around with water around molten steel. These are considerations that OSHA ought to take in consideration. So we're talking here of flexibility. We're talking of using controls. We're talking of using technology. We're talking about using tools, we ought to be at least, that protect the worker, that makes a clean breathing space for them to carry on the necessary work they do, and not have a simple one-size-fits-all because we think it ought to be that way. Now, that's why we had this hearing again today. It's after the fact, but I'm still hopeful that somehow, some way, we can make sure we preserve jobs, we preserve trades, we preserve futures for people in this country that they can pass on doing good work that needs to be done here and not someplace else. Yes, we can make sure that there aren't foundry jobs available. Everybody will be safer as a result of that, maybe. But we won't have those foundry jobs and we won't have those products built. Now, that's what we wrestle with. It's not an issue of whether we discount life. It's an issue of whether we sustain life and move industry forward to make America what it is. And that's what this is about. I want to express my deep appreciation to my colleagues on both sides of the aisle. I want to express my appreciation to the witnesses, all four at the table, and everyone in this room today for taking this serious. And I hope as a result of it, we'll see OSHA maybe even step back and say, we might want to listen to some of the information more carefully. We might have a better way that ultimately protects the individuals involved with this as well as the workplace.